What's up, everyone? I am Jordan John Louis, host of the JJL Sports Talk Show. I have my co-host, my right hand man, Kyle Edwards. Man, what's going on? What's going
Hey
on,
man,
man?
I'm good. I'm good. How you doing?
Good, man. Just watching these playoffs, crazy playoff wild card day.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we're in for a roller coaster ride tomorrow as well. But yeah, man. I mean, we'll dive into that later. But it's been a crazy, um, weeks in sports. Got NFL games to talk about. Some MLB. Talk about some NBA. Some early preseason talk. So let's just dive into it, man. I know on Tuesday on Sports Empire on the Big Three podcast, we went over like the week four matchups and yeah, like what do you think about the games last week, man? What do you?
I mean, there's some interesting things that we did see. We had the London game, which kicked it all off. Having football that early in the morning, and I always appreciate seeing like the London crowd and how they are really like taken to the NFL game. A lot of them don't really have a that they don't necessarily. I mean, they don't have a team over there or anything like that, but they do root for NFL teams. You'll see, Steelers, Cowboys. You'll see Patriots jerseys. So you just see that all spread out. So I think it's a cool thing. Um, I know for a lot of teams they didn't like giving up a home game to go over there, but it's cool for what it is. And then everything that happened in the middle with my guy Bailey Zappi getting his first chance to play in Green Bay. You had you know all this stuff with Tua, which I'm sure will that's still the story that's like the dark cloud over all the games, and then it ended up what last night with you know more questions about Denver, still questions about Indianapolis, so
Yeah,
wide range.
yeah. So let's dive into the NFL games week four. Tell me what you thought about the Thursday night game against Miami and Bengals, man.
Well, I mean, I went into that fully expecting the Bengals to win because I'm a big fan of what the Bengals have with Joe Burrow, Chase, and all those other offensive weapons. And that I feel like should have been the story of Cincinnati kind of looking like the team that they were last season when they made the Super Bowl run. But of course, it was all overshadowed with the Tua stuff. And now more people just looking into Miami and how they're kind of their dealings down there. But I mean, luckily they do have Teddy Bridgewater, who's a capable backup. But now all the questions are about Tua's future. Can he play again? Should he play again? Um, all that. So it'll be interesting to see what Miami does going forward. But I do think that that was a game where Cincinnati kind of let people know that, hey, we're still here and we still can win games and we still can be a force to be reckoned with in the AFC. That's what I think happened Thursday night. So
Yeah, I mean, like I said on I think last Tuesday of the Big Three podcast, like I told you, man, I think Dylan was in the chat, but I was like, yeah, man, one of those people on the staff is gonna get fired, and because of the way they handled the situation.
mhm.
Now, I mean, didn't, if the trainers decided, yeah, let's start Bridgewater and against the Bengals instead of starting Tua. I mean, listen, that man was stumbling, against the Bills, and and I feel like his job would have been saved. Um, so now that dude's fired out of a job. He said he made some bad decisions, and he made some bad calls for to his judgment. Because Tua obviously he doesn't really have his say, and I mean I guess he kind of does, but in a sense, he's not a doctor. The doctors take care of him
Mhm.
in a way. So I mean I knew it was gonna happen. I mean either one staff member or several. Maybe we'll see. I'm not sure if the NFL is done investigating the whole situation, but apparently one guy got fired out of the Miami training staff. And like I said, it was kind of fishy how like after they lost that game against the Bengals, how like usually a normal human being, if he's sent to the hospital, right, and he goes through a lot of tests, usually they don't discharge him until like the next night or like the next day at like the next morning. But obviously he got cleared and now he got to cop on the team flight back home. I get it. He's the QB of the team, the star player, but like being up in the elevation, even with that head, because now he had a concussion that can affect his brain and stuff. So I'm surprised that they let him on that team playing after he got discharged.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they're going to sit him a couple games. Let him rest up, which I think is the best option. And let it ride with Brissett. Not Brissett. Bridgewater.
Yep.
But yeah, that's like what do you think? Do you think that they should let him on that plane after the game?
Well, I think in the perfect world, what would have happened was, Tua takes the hit in Buffalo. Everybody sees him stumbling around. They pull him from that game. Bridgewater finishes that game. Then Thursday night, I feel like you sit Tua because it's a short week. You let Bridgewater get the start on Thursday night. Then that gives you now 10 days after that game until your next game. Then at that point, if Tua is in the equation to start, fine. Because at least at that point, it's been like 2 weeks since we've seen him play. But once Miami let him back into the Buffalo game, that kind of threw those plans away for Thursday night, him sitting. The only thing I thought was when they said it was like a back injury or whatever,
right.
that since it was a short week, maybe they sit him and say because of the back they want to be precautious, which would have made sense, but they didn't do that. So I do find it a little weird that he got checked out and was cleared to fly, but I don't know if maybe Miami was doing that so then they could get him in their facility in Miami to continue tests. Who knows? I'm sure everybody's gonna be watching to see, why don't they just like put him on IR? That way you give him 4 weeks away. If Miami plans on just sitting him like a week or two, then I guess that doesn't really make sense. But we see with other people though. Brian Hoyer had the concussion against Green Bay. New England automatically put him on IR, so now he's out for 4 weeks. Miami chose not to do that, so
yeah,
we'll have to see.
Yeah, actually, we got a guest coming in. He's a big Philadelphia fan of the Eagles and the Flyers and everything. So he's gonna come in a couple minutes to talk about his team. Which they're 4-0, but we'll dive into that game actually in a couple games. So all right, obviously the next game on the ESPN list is the Ravens. I know you. I talked about my. I went through my heart and pain on Tuesday, and I got to talk about it again. Man, why you laughing, Kyle? Why you laughing, man? Man.
only because with the Ravens, their fans, it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be a season where they kind of go up and down with all this. Only because they look great some weeks, then they look great for a half, then they kind of blow leads, then they look great, then they look great for a half. And I think there's probably a lot of Ravens fans that are wondering, can they put together like consecutive wire to wire performances where Ravens fans can sit back and be like, all right, that team looks pretty good. Now you got to wonder if they go up against a high powered offense, if they have a great first half, you got to wonder like, well, what point does the other team just come back and make it close again?
Right.
So
like my thing, like it was the first quarter. Allen, I think we kicked it off up to the Bills. So you got the ball back at half. So I couldn't. I didn't watch the first couple minutes of the game because I had to stream it. It wasn't a local game. So I missed the first couple of plays. But I know Josh Allen threw a pick. The first pick on the first drive, and we held in the first quarter. We held them to like 56 points total offense. In the first quarter. It reminded me of the Miami game in a sense. Like, we had kicked off to Duvernay. Duvernay had the kick return to start 7-0.
Yep.
Tua had that first pick to Marcus Williams. We put it up. I mean, we were at the goal line twice. The refs took it back because I guess he didn't cross the goal line. We put up touchdowns. Lamar had a 79-yard touchdown run. Same thing with Bills. I mean, Bills. I mean, we were going hard at them early in the game.
Mm-hmm.
It's just when we got the ball back. I mean, there were some crucial calls that I thought could have got turned back, especially that first play when I think it was like a 3rd and 2 or a 4th and 1 or 4th and inches where Lamar was running it and like he had the ball. And the ball didn't cost the first down yard and they had to like turn it back. Apparently, he set that event before he crossed the ball for the first down mark. So then a questionable pass interference call that wasn't called. Then in the second half, fourth quarter, call when they called that roughing the passer call on Josh Allen. When I mean, at first it wasn't a call, but then when Josh Allen threw up his hands for a flag, that's when they called the penalty, and that play kind of like turned the tables for the Bills. That was that drive where they went down and marched down the field. Now, the only problem I have, like I said on Tuesday, was just like the same problem happened last year when, against the Steelers, against the Browns, we always want to go for it and get that, other than the 3-point lead, we want to get that touchdown lead. And the only problem I have is just Harbaugh's decision of going for it on 4th and 1. I get it. I get the philosophy of going for it because, you're going against Josh Allen, but when you have the best kicker in the league in Justin Tucker, what I'm saying, I would kick the field goal because think about it. We will be up 23-20 going into like the next drive. Yes, they could have scored a touchdown on the Bills and we would have been down by 4. But now it would have been 23-23 going to overtime possibly. So, I mean, in football, the game of inches, you know what I'm saying? So,
yeah. Also, with that, I just didn't understand them going for it, and then the way Harbaugh explained it after didn't really make sense for going for it, because Harbaugh was talking about, they went for it because he trusted his defense, in that if they didn't get it, then Buffalo would be pinned on their, close to their own end zone, and he would trust that the defense would stop them from then getting the score to go ahead. Which, if you trust your defense, you would kick the field goal there. That way you have the lead, and then when you kick off, trust your special teams, which is basically a part of your defense, to stop them deep in their end, and then the defense not allow Josh Allen to get in the field goal range. So I just didn't get it. Like, if you want to go for it, fine, but then stand up and be like, yeah, maybe it was a bad call or something like that. It just didn't make sense to me what Harbaugh was talking about.
Yeah. Actually, we have our guest in, Frankie James. He talks about Philly sports, so I know he's happy about that Philly comeback win. Yep. Let's add to the stream, man. Welcome to the stream, brother.
Gentlemen, how we doing? And I'm excited about that Phillies win. I'm sitting here talking about it, and I just did my show, and I was talking about it. I'm sitting here with my dad, and I'm like, listen, in baseball, all it takes a couple guys on base, and you just don't know what can happen. Now, it's not essentially like, with the NHL, you see teams get in there, and the NHL playoffs are some of the most competitive and exciting that I've ever been able to cover. But, the Phillies getting in there and how they got in there, you just don't know. I mean, we have our prediction. I have them beating them tomorrow, moving on to the next round. But, yeah, the Phillies – 11 years.
Yeah, so me and Kyle, this is Kyle, my co-host, and then Frank, this is Frankie.
Let's go, Frankie.
Yo, Kyle, what's happening? You see the back sports things right behind us, too.
Yeah, so, I mean, we were just talking about just a couple games because usually we do recap of, like, week 4, and then we go, like, to week 5 previews for the games. So we just went over the Thursday night game last week against the Miami and Bengals, and then we got into the Ravens Bills. All right, well, yeah, what do you think about them games, man?
The whole situation, I feel as if just for due diligence, the talk about the Miami game, just the Miami situation right now with Tua. And, I prayers are out to him, I'm sure, from all three of us that he's okay, because it's just seeing that he was knocked out the series beforehand and then he came back, and then that was scary. And I played ice hockey for 18 years, and I essentially played at a pretty high level. And when I got hurt, I was out 3 years, and it was due to a concussion. It's something that's so serious that just should have never happened. The whole franchise needs to be reevaluated, if you ask my opinion. Take away their wins.
Yeah,
take away
definitely agree with that.
They had years ago.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like you're not wrong. Like, like especially like when you said that when they got hit against the Bengals, that was scary. But that even the week before that against the Bills, like when he was kind of stumbling and not couldn't even stand up straight. And I was just telling Kyle that I called that like someone should have been fired from that training staff, and someone did. I think it was one person, but yeah, like it was scary. Like seeing somebody in that position, like on the flat for like 7 minutes, like that's scary. But like you said, like prayers up to him. Hopefully, he gets better in a couple of games. But like like that's scary with any level.
It's a shame because the Dolphins were looking good, and I watch a lot of college football too. So watching Tua like in Alabama and then transitioning, a lot of people were surprised. They thought that he was going to come in and really tear it up, and essentially it was the other way around now with Jalen Hurts. And I'm sure we'll get into that maybe next game. But there was a lot of surprise, and Tua was one of those guys this year, especially with the Dolphins. If this wasn't going to work, they were going to be probably on the hunt for a new franchise quarterback. This was a big year for him, and it's definitely a shame, and especially because the Dolphins were playing pretty good. Now, the game beforehand that you were just covered, what was that one more time?
The one that before it was Ravens Bills.
The Lamar conversation is pretty wild because he's proven a lot. He hasn't won the big dance, and he does struggle in the playoffs. I don't know how or why, because that man might be one of the most talented quarterbacks I've ever watched play. But with that being said, to say no to the contract that he had gotten is pretty wild, especially for someone that hasn't won the big dance yet. But it's crazy. But the Buffalo Bills, they're a team that everybody believes in them. They have the talent. They just have to close the deal. But all around, it was a good game. Two good matchups. I mean, that's just a really good matchup right there with the Bills and Ravens. I mean, essentially what you think is going to be a big playoff game and really could have some playoff implications. Is our brother can't be able to hear me? He can't hear me?
Yeah, he can't hear you, man. I don't know. Can you hear him now, Kyle?
I just hear you.
You hear me?
Yeah.
I mean, I can hear Frankie.
Can you hear me now?
I mean, I can hear you. I don't know.
That's wild.
Yeah, that's weird, but I mean, I'll try to figure out what's going on my end. But
yeah. So we have. I mean, so I'm a Ravens fan. Obviously Frankie's a Philadelphia fan, and then we got my boy. He's a New England fan, Patriots. So
yep.
Yeah, a lot of diversity, I guess. Would you say a lot of?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, especially because the old Super Bowl.
Oh yeah,
incredible.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. How I added you, and then the whole Super Bowl when Tom Brady played against Philadelphia.
Yeah, it is what it is.
So, Kyle, so you can only hear me, right? Not Frankie.
Yeah, I can't hear Frankie.
He must have knew what I was saying. That's
maybe unless if you do what you did with me and remove Frankie and bring him back on, maybe that will work. I don't know.
Are you can hear him now?
Check 1 2. Check 1 2.
No.
Man, that's weird. But
yeah, I don't know what's going on.
Well, it's all good. So let's do this. It's your show, of course. Let's just cover the Eagles game real quick, and then I don't want to jump into the show fully. I'll give my take from the Eagles game and a little prediction for this weekend. I'll let you guys do your show.
All right, yes. I don't maybe next week when I share that out with the technical issues and stuff and everything. But yeah. So so Kyle, so Frankie wants to talk about his Philly Eagles, and then from the last week, and then give his prediction for this week, and then he can head out because you can't hear him.
So the Birds last weekend. Man, I'll tell you that. I knew that was going to be a tough game. Great to see Doug Peterson come back. I mean, essentially, there's few players that come back to Philadelphia, and they're not going to be booed. One is going to be Doug Peterson, and the other, of course, is going to be Nick Foles. I think that's pretty much proven. And hopefully, we'll get to see Nick come back eventually at some point. They look good. That win last weekend, to be able to come back from 14-0 and win that, really, I think, solidified a lot. Jalen Hurts is having an MVP year. This team's legit, and I think that was a big win. What more can I say? Huge win. The defense tightened up. The offense got it going. Huge win all the way around. Go Birds on that one. Now we got this weekend. A team where you have Kyler Murray, who still is establishing himself. A lot of doubters with Kyler Murray. Was originally drafted by the MLB, as a pitcher. So being drafted in the NFL and in the MLB is pretty impressive right off the bat. Talent all the way around. But he just can't seem to really get it together as an NFL quarterback. I have the Birds win this one. Double digits. And the Fly Eagles fly. They're just making their way through and then move on to the next week. But I got the Birds win this one absolutely by double digits.
So who the Eagles play this week, Frank?
Arizona Cardinals.
The Cardinals.
In Arizona. I got a few friends out there.
See now that I would agree with you, but the one thing I would disagree with you on is like the Eagles have to watch out for Cardinals like second half. So like how like the Warriors are like a third quarter team, like they lose in the first quarter, and then in the NBA, then when they come back third quarter, fourth quarter, they're a third quarter team, fourth quarter team. Like same thing with the Cardinals. I feel like if it's a close game throughout the game, like we all saw the Raiders and Cardinals game when the Cardinals came back. You know what I'm saying? So like the only problem is like obviously they're 4-0 the Eagles, but I just kind of see like if the Eagles kind of let them hang around, I can see in the second quarter or second half that like they might not have to come back.
Well, that's a good point. Yeah, it's a good point you make right off the bat because it's essentially Philadelphia is known to play teams that they should beat. They let up.
They blow them out. They blow them out. So they don't really have to worry about a close lead. But yeah, you're right.
Philadelphia has that issue, and it's unfortunate because they'll beat the team that they don't think that you're going to beat, and then they let up on guys that they should. Mm-hmm. And you don't want to see that. They have to play 4 quarters of football, and if they do, they will absolutely probably dominate this game.
Right, Kyle. Since we're on this game, like what are your opinions on it from this week, and then I guess we can. There are back-to-back review of this game.
Well, I mean, for the Eagles, I think, one thing I do like about what's going on in Philly is that actually there's something that Gene kind of pointed out to me. I went and checked out the press conference where he talked about how Jalen Hurts was doing a press conference and they asked him like a bunch of questions and they didn't ask him anything about the Cardinals. But Hurts was like, why didn't you guys ask me anything about Arizona because they're a good team and all that? And I think that's a good sign of him being a leader of that team. And I think because of that, if you've seen Philly play, like they look like a team that's legitimately on a mission to win the NFC East. Mm-hmm. Hurts has had a lot of improvements in his game. Devontae Smith has really come on and has looked like a number one wide receiver. You still have A.J. Brown to complement him. I like their running game with Sanders. He's been coming on as well. So I actually think the Eagles will have pretty easy time with the Cardinals. I know what you're talking about, Cardinals coming back in the second half, but it's one thing to come back on a Raiders team that was winless and then trying to do that against a team that hasn't lost a game all season yet. So I definitely want to see how that plays out. And also the Eagles defense, is pretty good, at least with their corners, and we know Kyler Murray likes to throw the ball up. So.
Yeah, I mean that's gonna be a good game. Think about it, because obviously the Eagles have a better record than the Cardinals, but I mean both quarterbacks kind of play the same way. They're kind of like short QBs, both mobile QBs. I think that this might be their first kind of real roadblock. I know JJ Watt.
hot take. A hot take.
Yeah, I mean,
I thought
just
Jacksonville was
because.
definitely their biggest one yet. I think Jacksonville is more talented than Kyler's really green still, and he shows that. And I think that's
He
one of his
does. He does.
flaws is that, yeah, he's still young. He's still doing it. But Jalen is as well. The
Right.
thing is with Jalen, he's improved so much, and Kyler still is just showing so green, and he's
Yeah.
not maturing enough. He's not maturing quicker.
Exactly. And I mean, I do believe that like at the end of the day, the Eagles will win because they had the better receiving corps. But I mean, I'm just worried about the Eagles when it comes down to like to the second half, because like you said, your team is used to like blowing people out, and then they're not used to going back and forth in the game. You know what I'm saying? So when it comes down to like the hard knocks of the game, when it comes to second half, Kyler, many people didn't expect them to come back against the Raiders, like because I think it was their first game of the season, I think, or when they still had Adams, which I mean they're not even gelling together on the same page.
No.
But at the time on
Stop
paper,
starting
like,
there. Stop it.
no one expected Kyler and them because they were like down like what 0-20 or 15 or 14-0 in the first half, and then Kyler just came back and marched down the field and just like scored. So. I mean, I do agree. Overall, Eagles are going to win. But just I just want to, I'm cautious about like, how close they're going to be with how Cardinals in the second half, how good they are.
It's pretty well said, and they are. And you kind of brought up a good point about and like they are very similar. I agree 100%. And with that being said, I appreciate you guys letting me come on and talk a little Eagles football. When the Eagles win the big game, dinner's on me, boys.
All right, Frankie. Well, thank you for joining the show, man.
See, Frankie, too bad I couldn't hear you, but yeah. That's just weird how that happened, but
yeah, that's weird. So you can hear me, right? You can hear me, right?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, he's a big Philadelphia fan, area guy. So, he has he actually has like a big following and stuff. So maybe he can get more viewers for us. So
yeah, I mean, hopefully if he's on again, I'll actually get the chance to, hear him and go back and forth with him. Because I mean, I know Philly fans they go hard for their teams.
yeah.
But I mean, that's like an Eastern Conference thing, because I mean Eastern Coast thing, because I go hard for my Boston area teams, and New York's the same way, Baltimore, that area. So yeah.
So yeah, I know we talked about the Eagles, but I think the next game on the list is the Chiefs and Buccaneers game. I think I had the Chiefs. I'm not sure if I had the Chiefs or Buccaneers winning. I think I had the Chiefs winning that game. That was a crazy game. 41-31. Kansas City. Tom Brady had 385 yards on 3 touchdowns. Mahomes had. I gotta pull up the stats. Mahomes had 249 pass yards, 3 touchdowns. Clyde Helaire had 92 yards for an average of 4.8 yards per carry, and 1 touchdown, with 21 yards being the longest. Rashad White on the Tampa Bay had 6 yards. So their running game was not as good as the Chiefs. For receiving, Kelsey had 92 yards for 10.2 yards for 92 yards, or per night. Longest for 22. Mike Evans had 103 yards for total average of 12.9 yards and 2 touchdowns. So it's kind of like, both receiving corps had like, a good game, but Mahomes, is going to do Mahomes like things. So
yeah,
what do you think about that game, man?
So I've followed Brady for a while, all the times he was in New England and all that. So I understand with Brady, it usually takes about 3 to 4 weeks for him to really get going. And we kind of saw towards the latter part of that game, the Buccaneers offense looked like, the high-powered offense that they could be. And I fully expect that to continue on, this upcoming week when they play the Falcons, a team that Brady's never lost to. But, Kansas City it's another team that kind of was pushed to the back with all the moves in the AFC, Buffalo coming up. Everybody was on the Chargers. Everybody was loving Denver when they got Russell Wilson. The Raiders when they got Devontae Adams, the Bengals and all that. And Kansas City was kind of that team that was like, yeah, we know what they are, but they're just we've seen them already. But then you took Tyreek Hill away from them, and people were really questioning what their offense would look like without him. And I feel like the Chiefs' offense, because even with Tyreek Hill there, they still had the big playability, but there was more to their offense than just Tyreek Hill, which is why I never understood all the questions about, taking him away, what that would do to the offense. Andy Reid is a, brilliant offensive mind. Pretty sure it was not going to be a problem for him to rework the offense around the other pieces they have there.
I mean, I will say, but I mean, Juju Smith is not a Tyreek Hill. I mean, Tyreek Hill would like take the top off receivers. Like once he gets that yard after that rack yard, that run after carry, like or catch, like I mean, that's a big difference. But I mean, obviously Juju is a big body receiver, a lot taller than Tyreek. But yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that. Like Andy Reid's a more offensive-minded coach. Like he's really gonna have any worries with Mahomes. But because everyone thought, even though with Tyreek's top speed in the league, like he's like people thought, like it wasn't gonna work out because like Juju Smith,
but it's not like you can't defend Tyreek Hill. Most teams just put guys over the top of him and then just take away the big play.
Right, and they still got Kelsey too, so like nothing really has changed in the offense. But I mean, they got the dub, 10 points, and that's the game with the game over the across the pond in London. The first NFL game of the season in London. Vikings and Saints, 28-35. We can like briefly go over these games so we can get to our previews. So Browns Falcons. Falcons won 23-20. These advertisements. But can you hear the advertisement thing you're playing in the background?
No.
Okay, good. Okay, I just want to make sure. All right. So Washington Commanders versus Cowboys. Cowboys beat them by 15. Seahawks, Lions. Seahawks put up 48 against the Lions. Brings them to 1-3-1. Or 1-3. The Lions, Titans, Colts, 24-17. Chicago against the Giants. That was a crazy ending to the game. Giants won 20-12. Like Frankie said, his team won against the Jaguars 29-21. Steelers lost against the Jets 20-24. Chargers won by 10, 34-24. The game before we get to the previews I want to go over is this Monday night game. LA Rams versus 49ers. We all know that the Rams got smacked. Got actually shellacked by the Bills week 1. Obviously we all know that the Rams are coming off of a Super Bowl hangover, and everyone thought on paper, they're going to be, Matt Stafford, he's going to, bring them to the promised land again, all the hype. But after that terrible loss against the Bills, that kind of went down, and now he played even terrible against the Niners. Like, dude, so many picks. I think he threw 3 picks. I think, or no, he threw 1 interception. I think he threw. I'm pretty sure I saw more than 1 interception from Matt Stafford, but he threw for 254 yards, one interception. He was sacked seven times. Had a low QB rating of 71.1 or 71 for QB rating. Jimmy Garoppolo had 239 passing yards, 1 touchdown. He was sacked 0 times. It's just this Super Bowl caliber team from last year is not the same. Obviously, Von Miller's on the Bills. They lost a veteran, I think tackle Wentworth.
He retired.
Yeah. Odell Beckham is on the team. He's a free agent. But like you said on the Big Three podcast on Tuesday, like they're not utilizing Robert Woods, or not Robert Woods.
Allen Robinson.
Allen Robinson, like he's a top tier receiver, and he I don't think he realizes, like you said, like how good of a talent he is, and Ramsey and Debo were going back and forth. Debo kind of owned him that game.
I mean, Ramsey likes to talk. That's one thing he will do, and I do appreciate when teams still kind of throw at him. He is a pretty good cornerback, but that doesn't mean you can't look his way and test him every once in a while. Because every once in a while you will get a big play on him. And then just one thing about the Rams also. I know when the Rams won everything, everybody was glad to see Stafford, win a Super Bowl after all those years he's toiled in Detroit. But I just didn't get on board with everybody like elevating him to like this, you know, lock steady Hall of Fame quarterback because of that. I fully believe that that's probably like a 1 year flash in the pan thing. And that's not to say they can't turn around this year and prove me wrong, but a lot of the habits that I've seen from the Rams so far this season were a lot of the reasons why I think Stafford, the hype on him needs to chill a little bit. He takes these wild risks for no reason. You know, Mahomes likes to do his, no look passes and stuff. Stafford likes doing them too. But except for Stafford gets in trouble a lot when he tries to do it. Against the Niners, the 7 sacks, you can't put all that on the offensive line. A lot of that was him holding the ball too long. And I really think the Rams are in a little bit of trouble so far, this season because the Niners are better right now with Garoppolo only because we didn't see Trey Lance play a lot this season. The Cardinals, if they play up to their potential, they're going to be a tough out. And Seattle's shown if you don't take them seriously, they can't upset you on certain weeks. So I don't think there's like, you know, playoff spot just waiting for the Rams. I think they're really have to earn it this season.
Yeah, like giving him a good point about like us not really seeing enough of Trey Lance because he got hurt, and then but like most teams, like the Niners have to count their blessings every week of the season because most teams when a rookie QB goes down with an injury,
Mm-hmm.
um, most teams don't have a good backup.
Yeah.
And they're lucky that they have a security blanket in Garoppolo. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, he's better than Stafford at this point right now. But like most teams, most teams don't have a reliable backup because most backups don't really get that field time.
Right.
Obviously,
Well,
Garoppolo was a starter, but obviously Niners thought that he was going to be shipped away. Garoppolo, I think he wanted out, and Trey Lance got in. He got
they
hurt.
treated him like they were going to send him away. They never gave him the playbook. They had him practicing outside by himself without the other teammates, and then they decided to keep him because they couldn't find anywhere to send him because he was hurt.
And like how lucky they got. Now they're they
Mhm.
have, but now the problem is if he goes down, who's going to be their backup? You know what I'm saying? So that's the only issue. Like where
I mean,
see
most
that.
teams are like that. If you get down to their third string, most teams only carry 2 quarterbacks now anyway.
Yeah.
So a lot of teams will be in trouble if you get down to the third string. I mean, Miami's the same. They're lucky for Bridgewater as a backup.
I mean, he's a good quarterback too. I mean, that's a
Yeah.
good a little blanket for them until Tua gets back. So all right, so that's good. Let's speed things up and go to like the previews for the week 5 matchups real quick. We don't have to go through all the games. I know there's a lot of games.
Yeah.
Let's just go through. All right. Well, obviously, week or Thursday. Well, Thursday was the end of week 4, right?
No, Thursday starts.
Oh, it
week
starts
5.
to week 5.
Yep.
So obviously, boring, another boring primetime game. Colts and Broncos. I think on the Big Three podcast, I had Colts upsetting the Broncos. That's my
Mhm.
upset game. I mean, I thought the Colts were gonna not blow them out, but at least put up more than 12 points. But they got the W. Wilson had 2 interceptions, 21 for 39, 274 yards. I mean, both games, it was like 0-0 in the first quarter, second quarter. It was kind of a slow game. Like anyone that was, tired could have fell asleep in that game. I know I did. I was one of the guys that fell asleep in that game because there was no action. But I don't know. Russell Wilson is like he obviously, like you said, like Seahawks can upset a lot of teams, and they got Geno Smith, and he's thriving in that system where Russell had that system. He wanted out, got to Denver. On paper, like people thought, oh my God, the AFC West is going to be dangerous. You got Chiefs, Chargers, Denver, Las Vegas. But now what? Now what? Did like 2-3, I think. 2-3.
Yeah,
the
yep,
Broncos. So,
yep.
I mean, obviously, we all know that Chiefs kind of hold that AFC West position.
Mm-hmm.
Chargers are right up there too, but Herbert has been out for a couple games. Raiders that they've been losing games. All these teams are on paper that we're good on paper, like they're just doing terrible. And I know it's like we're only like in week 5, week 6. It's still kind of early to like make a final pick on each conference, but on paper, like Adams is not going off because Derek Carr is inconsistent with the football. He can't get it to him. Like they have a good roster. They have Adams. They have Darren Waller. They have Winfro. They have Alex Cobb on the defensive side. They had Josh Jacobs. They had everyone they need, but that game was just terrible. I feel like another team should be on that prime time slot because it just was a boring game.
I mean, I understand why they put that on the Thursday slate.
It was Russell Wilson.
Well, you're getting Russell Wilson. You're getting Matt Ryan, who's a former MVP. So they're expecting it to be like maybe high scoring because the Colts came into the season with a lot of expectations. The Broncos as well. But from watching that game, there were a couple of things that I think stood out to me. Was that one, like the fans are teetering on like just mutiny against that team. I don't know if you saw the ending there, but like 5 seconds left in the fourth quarter where it was clearly going to overtime.
Yeah.
Fans were like piling out of that stadium because they had had enough. And then you get into overtime, Russell Wilson with the first possession that he gets, first play, screen pass, you're like, okay, offense looks pretty good. The next play, he hits Judy for a big chunk of yards, and you're like, oh, so now the offense is starting to click. Because I even think I put in the message, I was like, where has this offense been all night?
All right.
Then they get down the red zone, and it's like Russell Wilson becomes indecisive. And maybe Richard Sherman touched on something. He talked about the Super Bowl with Seattle and New England where he had the interception. It almost seems like that plays in his mind now when he's in the red zone because they actually ran a similar play on that fourth down play. And KJ Hamler came through wide open, but Russell Wilson never looked to that side, so he never saw it. And then technically Jerry Jeudy was open on the out route if you look to the right as well.
Mm-hmm.
But he stuck on the left side, then threw a pass that was contested by Gilmore. And the way he took his helmet off and he's like rubbing his head and his hair and stuff, like he looks like a guy who's just not confident right now. And I'll even give him a pass on the pass before that where Gilmore picked it off in the end zone at the end of the fourth quarter because technically that receiver should have ran that slant route at a sharper angle to keep Gilmore on his back. He kind of ran it too deep and Gilmore undercut it, but it was still a late throw from Russell Wilson. So it may just take one good drive to finally unlock whatever is going on in Russell Wilson's head. But for right now, it's rough. And Tony Gonzalez said it perfectly. He was like looking out in the field right now, like that's pathetic what people are seeing from Russell Wilson. And I completely agree with him.
Hey, like you said, like we said prior to the season, like Russell Wilson going to the Broncos, it's going to be a perfect, not a perfect season, but a better season than what Denver has had. They had Drew Lock, they've had Joe Flacco for maybe like a season and a half, maybe, and they had a whole QB carousel. But now they signed Russell Wilson. He gets that contract. To be honest, it's another hot take. I don't think he deserves that contract, like the way he's playing right now. Like, you know what I'm saying? But maybe it's too early to say that. Yeah. But like he hasn't really proven to me like this so far that they can blow out teams. You know what I'm saying? And Stephen A. I don't want to endorse him on the show, but on first take today, um, he was like, oh, he thinks Sierra is a distraction to Russell Wilson. I'm like, yo.
I mean, in what way though? Like she kind of just sits up in the box. She doesn't really do
Well,
much up
maybe talking
there.
about like behind the scenes, how Tom Brady, Giselle,
Well, that's different because we're actually hearing news about
yeah.
them
It's just,
like every
I think
day.
Stephen A. just said it for a narrative. I don't know, but it was funny, man. But I mean, uh,
I
yeah.
just think he's lacking confidence, whether it's in his ability or the offense itself. Because a lot of people talked about that, where Hackett came from Green Bay, and I think he's trying to install the same Green Bay offense with Russell Wilson. Maybe that's not a good pairing. So at some point, maybe Hackett modifies the offense away to highlight the things that Russell Wilson can do well. Uh, or for all we know, maybe Russell Wilson's just done at this point. It'd be surprising, but maybe that's what it is.
Yeah. So that's the Thursday night game. Let's go to the primetime games first. So I mean, I know the Ravens play Bengals primetime Sunday night. I believe I had Ravens on my pick for that game just because, obviously, Lamar is playing his tail off the season. It's not really his fault. We're losing as our defense is holding us up. Um, so I mean, on ESPN, they're 3.5 point favorites. Which you already said that the home team gets what, 3 points off the
Yeah, you
bat.
get 3 for being at home anyway.
Three
Yeah.
for me at home anyway. But I mean, I feel like that. I feel like the Ravens. It's a divisional opponent. They know that at the end of the day, one team is going to be 3-2. One team is going to be 2-3 and have a full game lead in the division. So I feel like obviously it's going to be a good game. But I feel like Lamar, as long as they put pressure on Burrows, and I know it's going to be hard in a perfect world, but to guard tight on T. Higgins and Jamar Chase and Boyd, and that's a tall task for our defense. But I feel like that crowd's going to feed into that atmosphere, and I feel like obviously the defense, obviously our defense has heard. They're hearing, people saying, "Oh, we can't close out games," and I feel like they're hungry. They want this win. And I feel like if Harbaugh, okay, if it's fourth and inches, first go for the first down, but if it's in a crucial situation, Harbaugh, please do not go for it. Just kick the field goal, man. You know
Well,
what I'm
I
saying?
mean, I think teams have to take the whole fourth down thing based off situations. There are several times where going for it on fourth down does make sense, even if you have Justin Tucker as your kicker. You know, because sometimes getting a fourth down can give you momentum, and then you can kind of snowball from there, or it's a good way to put a game away because maybe the other team's feeling a little bit better about themselves and you get a critical fourth down and that kind of takes the wind out of their sails. But I will say, I know you're talking about Baltimore blitzing Burrow and stuff like that. I think if Baltimore does that, they may be in serious trouble because Burrow is actually a pretty decent quarterback against the blitz. Because usually when he gets blitzed, he'll either just throw the ball up to Chase, who's really good at attacking the ball at its highest point, or he hits guys like Higgins and Boyd on quick slants, and they're able to make a move and get yards after the catch. So I actually think the Bengals will win this game, even though it's in Baltimore, because Burrow is also one of those quarterbacks that's going to relish in Baltimore fans booing him and all that. He's going to take it. He's going to love it, and he's going to want to silence the Ravens crowd. And then I guess the last thing would be the Lamar thing. Lamar, yeah, he's played well, But one thing I can say that I can be critical about is, for top money quarterbacks in the league, if your defense is leaking points, drive after drive, then I think quarterbacks have to take it upon themselves to put in, one quality drive that gets the team some points on the board, which at least gives the defense, a reason to maybe uh, breathe a little bit and get back into it. So like when Miami went 21 nothing in like the fourth quarter, that means there was a couple of drives in there where Lamar could have drove them down the field, at least get a field goal or something, try to slow down the momentum. So that'd be my criticism of Lamar. Numbers wise, yes, he's having a great season, but I think looking deeper into it, there's some room for improvement there for sure.
I mean, I feel like if I'm not sure how many targets Mark Andrews had gotten against the Bills, but I feel like if Lamar and Cooper is
He for some reason he wasn't a big part
of the Bills
of the Bills game. I think he only had like 3 targets or something like that.
Targets. So like if like Lamar gets him into rhythm, I mean, I think Bateman is out with a foot injury. So I think they got Duvernay, Prochet. I think Demarcus Robinson's playing. No, Dobbins is playing. He's a full go, and then but I mean, I would say that I feel like our O line they're really protecting Lamar because in the draft we got the Lindenbaum, we got the Daniel Falalele, the rookie from I think Minnesota. So I mean we got some big boys on that O line, and as long as Lamar can stay down. Yeah. So yeah. So yeah. I mean, as long as Lamar can recuperate like Mark Andrews and had a running game down and and gain a lead. I mean, I feel like we can hold them. But Burrows, I mean, Burrows torched us last season 2 games in a row or 2 games in the division. So, but then again, we were hurt bad. Donovan was out. I think we're getting Gus Edwards back this game coming up, our backup running back, which is a big help. I know Justin Hill, he's out. So I mean, I'm going with the Ravens, man, because it's a primetime Sunday, our first Sunday primetime game, a division opponent. And both teams want that W, so it's going to be a good game. But I feel like Lamar, he's better. He's the better QB right now. Because he's first in touchdown pass touchdowns. I think he's still first or second in QBR rating, and he's fourth or first in rushing touchdowns. So, yeah, since they're home, I feel like they're gonna have the upper hand in that game.
I mean, I fully understand you picking them. I mean, I'm still sticking with the Bengals and also if Harbaugh and the defense really thinks like they could, put Marlon Humphrey on Jamar Chase and leave him out there one-on-one and think they'll be fine with that, I guarantee you Chase will eat Marlon Humphrey for dinner. Because, like I said, Chase, he's got speed. He's got the, high catch radius and all that. So if Baltimore wants to be cocky defensively, that will be their downfall. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, I mean that's a problem. I feel like with the Eagles, when they get up big, they don't let off. I feel like when we have big leads, we kind of are too cocky. We had a 25-point lead. Let's on defense. No, you have to go full throttle. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like we got
that's kind of a thing with that division because Pittsburgh's the same way. Pittsburgh isn't one to blow out teams either. Cincinnati, only because they're kind of new school, they're okay with blowing out teams. Cleveland is more like ground and pound, so they don't really have the ability to blow out a lot of teams. But yeah, Pittsburgh and Baltimore, they, for some reason, like playing conservative with the lead.
Yeah, I think you and Dylan called it before. I think everyone called it before the start of the season. About the Steelers, how Mr. Trubisky wasn't it. I think Kyle Pickett is going to make his first start this week. But they're playing the Bills, and that's like throwing them to the wolves because like
you might as well do it
you
because
might as well do it, but like they're probably gonna get beat, and which is happy for me because they're in the division.
you could say New England throwing Zappy to Green Bay, throwing him to the Wolves, and look how he responded. Kenny Pickett could do the same thing.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That is very very true. But yeah, I mean this, like I feel like honestly, me as a Ravens fan, we want to win games, but as long as if let's say if we lose a game and like Steelers lose and like Browns lose and Bengals lose, that's good for us. That means we're, but obviously we want to put more W's than the L's on the record. But I think right now, I think we're in the Bengals. We're like 1-2. I think we're 1 and then they're 2. The Bengals are like
I think so. Yep.
We're both 2-2. So you had the Bengals winning that. Let's just browse through. Let's go to the Monday night game. Raiders Chiefs. I believe I had the Chiefs because they're at Arrowhead. I think we all had Chiefs winning that game. Just because of, they're home and like the Raiders have been kind of like subpar. And it's Mahomes. In that like Arrowhead is probably one of the toughest places to play at. That crowd. It's a primetime game, Monday night game.
Yeah,
it's the Raiders. It's a rivalry. So yeah, I guess we both have that game. Okay, let's do our locks and then our upsets, and we'll get into some NBA talk.
All right. Let me see. Who do I have for a lock? Oh, I think I wrote it up here.
I think I had the Bills, and I think I had the Bills for my lock. I think
I remember that.
I think I had 2 locks. I think I had Niners versus Panthers, but then I chose the Steelers. I think Dylan chose the Bills, and then I chose the Niners. So yeah, I had the Niners for my upset or for my lock.
Yeah, so I remember my upset was Cowboys over the Rams, which I fully believe that could happen only because I think the Cowboys defense with Parsons and those guys might be able to get to Matthew Stafford and continue their struggles. Then my lock was Jaguars over the Texans because I think the Jaguars could win the AFC South. And if they want to be serious about it, a team like the Texans, it's a team that they have to beat, even though they've had some struggles against the Texans the past couple of years. But the Jaguars are a better team this season, and I think that should be a shoe-in win for them.
Yeah, well, my upset was the Colson Broncos, so that was my upset. And my lock, I think I had the Niners versus Panthers just because McCaffrey's always banged up. They don't really have a receiving corps. I think Niners has the better receiving corps with Ayuk and Deebo Samuel. So all around they had a better roster. Any other games I know big games? I know the second game in London is the Giants and Packers. That's gonna be a good one.
Well, Daniel Jones is hobbled. I think receiver-wise, the Giants are limited because they have some injuries there as well. So it's probably a game where they're going to try to feature Saquon Barkley a lot, but Green Bay's defense is pretty good, so they'll probably just key in on him. I think that game might get ugly.
Yeah, I think I feel like I had the Packers winning that game, but Barkley he's going off, man, and obviously he's not the quarterback. Obviously
right.
He's the running back, but he's been shortening that a lot of that load for running that corp. So
a lot of that was when Daniel Jones was healthy, and Daniel Jones factors into the running game as well. So
right, who's their backup? The Giants. I don't like. Do they have a quarterback?
They do, but I think he may even be hurt too. So that's kind of forcing Daniel Jones possibly to play because I think Jones has a bad ankle. So he's probably not going to be scrambling a lot.
Yeah, it's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess that does it for the NFL talk. Now, that's what I want to get into.
Okay.
The NBA. So I'm not sure if you looked at the so last week the NBA GMs posted their surveys for the upcoming season, like the predictions.
Yeah, I quickly glanced at it, but I can pull it real quick. I mean,
Yeah.
those GM surveys, some of them be wild
Yeah, I mean,
with
if you
what
want to
they
like,
predict.
if you just go on, if you look on Google on NBA app or NBA GM 2022, I think survey,
Mm-hmm.
you, you you can just follow along with me. So I mean, we're not gonna go through all of them because there's like a lot of them.
Yeah.
But the ones that stand out to me, so was the first one obviously, which team will win the 2023 NBA Finals? Also,
Mm-hmm.
number one, they had the Milwaukee Bucks at 43%. At number two, they had Golden State Warriors at 25%. They had the Clippers at number three, which I don't think that's going to happen, but
I,
21%.
I can see why.
Uh, Boston, your team at 11%. Last year, Brooklyn Nets were the leader to win the finals at 72%. So,
Yeah.
what do you think about that list?
I honestly don't have a problem with it. I mean, I probably wouldn't put the Clippers number 3, but I get
Yeah, me
why they
neither.
did. Because they're expecting healthy season from Kawhi, PG-13. Everybody's in love with John Wall being there. To be honest with you, I haven't seen John Wall play in like 6 years, so I don't know what he's gonna look like. But if he is healthy, him playing with Kawhi and Paul George will do a lot for him. It'll be the first time where he's not the number one guy on the team. He can kind of slide in as a number two, even a number three behind those guys. So maybe that takes a lot of pressure off of him, helps him be healthy all season. Celtics number 4. You know, I do agree. I mean, I know a lot of people put a lot of stock into the offseason, but I just think that team is tough enough to look past that because they have guys like Marcus Smart who is a legit leader and will make sure that their focus is there. Jalen Brown's becoming more of a leader. So I think they'll have a bunker mentality and come out and play well. But so I mean, I'm okay with the teams on the list. I might take the Clippers off for.
Yeah, who would you put in that spot?
That's the tough part. Like, who would I replace them with? Because you could look at Miami, or because like they've been there,
Right.
and they kind of get disrespected a lot. Denver is an interesting team if Jamal Murray can play the whole season. You already have Jokic. And if Michael Porter can ever figure out his back and all that, they could be a dangerous team in the West.
I'm surprised they didn't put the Nets in there because I mean, depending on I know Ben Simmons played a couple games in the preseason, like he's looking pretty good,
Mm-hmm.
doing well in the paint.
Except for that turnaround he tried.
Yeah.
I saw that video and he
That was
bricked
terrible.
that.
Oh yeah, but I mean, I'm surprised that they were on that list because like the way that pending if like Ben Simmons plays and Kyrie can get his shit together because apparently he didn't play preseason last game because of some personal issues.
That's
always starting.
That's always a thing with him.
always starting the year off wrong, Kyrie. Obviously we're all human. We have personal issues to take care of, but I get that. But
I mean, it's fine that he does it in the preseason. That's okay. I bet if this was like a media survey, they'd probably put the Nets up there. I think GMs are in a
GMs.
wait. Yeah, I think the GMs are like wait and see with Brooklyn and see if it's really going to work this season.
Right. So the next one, the survey was who would win the 2022-2023 MVP. They have Luka Doncic at 48% odds to win the MVP.
Mm-hmm.
Two, they have a two-time MVP, Giannis Antetokounmpo at 34%. That's crazy. That's his number, Jerry's number. Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid. 14%. Stephen Curry, I'm surprised he's at 3%. Last year they had Kevin Durant winning it, 30%, 37%. I mean, I know I'm trying to keep my bias. I feel like LeBron should be on that list too, just because obviously, I mean, the man averaged like 30 something points per game. I mean, he should be in the list every freaking year.
Only problem is how many wins are going to come with that. Because he averaged 30 last season and they didn't win a lot either.
I mean, they were hurt, but I mean, now they had AD, a healthy AD. I mean, I'm surprised he wasn't up there.
He's healthy every year this time. And then the season starts, something happens.
Yeah.
They're banking a lot on Westbrook being a legit 3-point specialist. I saw the preseason game against Phoenix. He hit like his first 2 threes. The ones after that were kind of bricks. So,
yeah. I mean, it's a pretty. Well, I talking about 80 or LeBron.
No, Westbrook, because they want to make Westbrook a 3-point shooter all of a sudden.
Didn't he airball a free throw too? I'm like, oh my god.
I feel like they're trying to limit what he can do, only because they don't want to, I guess, have the conversation of him playing on the court without LeBron. That's where you'll get the best Westbrook, but they don't want to do that. And
right.
then Patrick Beverley, that dude's going to foul out of like 40 games this season because he takes like every game personally. And the minute you say something to him, he starts hacking at you and all this stuff.
I mean, Draymond Green is the same way, man. I feel like they're the same. They're the same. And speaking of Draymond, he freaking punched the hell out of Jordan Poole in practice. Like, you see that?
That's practice. That happens.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like Beverly and like in Green are like the same way when it comes to like attitude, because obviously they both get like ejected from games. They both get, I mean, and that's a good thing when a player is like so like passionate like Draymond Green, like. But Beverly, I mean, it's not good when you get ejected from the game, but like having that fire mentality, like what I'm saying.
Yeah, there's other guys that play like that, but they don't be getting in foul trouble as often as Beverly does.
Yeah.
Because Beverly, especially against certain matchups, you will see he'll get like 3 fouls in the first quarter. He'll go off to the sideline. You won't see him for a while. He'll come back in. He'll get another couple of cheap fouls.
Yeah.
So it's something that he's going to have to control because they're expecting a lot out of him. Because the Lakers aren't necessarily deep either. Once you get past the starting 5, maybe Austin Reeves. After that, Thomas Bryant.
Well, I heard Kendrick Nunn is playing good in the preseason. He's pretty good. But he hasn't really played all last year. But he's been like, I think he had like 25 in the preseason game last game or whatever. But, I mean, that's another point guard if they need help. But you know what I'm saying? That's like the last resort. But like, do you agree with that list for the MVP race?
I mean, those are probably the names I would have predicted. The NBA MVP race is never hard to figure out once before the season. Luka, you knew was going to be up there because everybody loves Luka. Joel Embiid, I feel like the league wants to give Embiid an MVP at some point. It's just that when he plays well, there's always a guy who's a little bit better.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't put the Joker in there since he was like back.
I was about to say that's probably one. Maybe Joker's probably like number 5 on the list.
Number 5.
I mean, Steph Curry maybe a little surprising, but he only got 3%, so I'm not too worried about that.
Yeah. If you were starting,
but also the guy Durant, who they had last year, if the Nets get off to a good start, guarantee you'll start hearing Durant as an MVP candidate.
I wouldn't doubt that. What are some other ones? Okay, so
the next one's interesting. If you're starting a franchise today, who would you start with?
Yeah, that's one right here. So they had Giannis at 55%, Luka at 45%, and that's only 2.
Yeah, those are the only 2 guys.
Damn.
But I kind of thought maybe some people might throw Morant out there because a lot of people are really on the Morant train right now. Even Embiid, because I know some people still view him best big man in the league. So I think there's a few players they could have had on there for it to just be those 2 is interesting to me. I agree. I would pick Giannis, and I wouldn't even question it. But
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I feel like, man, That's a good question because I mean I feel like with Doncic he can give you like points outside the arc, so he can like stretch the floor out. So I I might pick Giannis for like the to lock down that center, then have other shooters around him. But I mean, look, he's like a hybrid. He can play like he can like do anything, everything. So
Well,
I mean, they're both two picks that are that anyone's hard to pick up.
only knock on Luka is defensively Giannis
Yeah,
is
defense. Yeah,
superior to him,
right,
but yeah, I mean Luka is he's a killer offensively. He takes big shots when needed. He makes them. Uh, he's not the most athletic guy, but he finds a way to score, and I can appreciate that.
right. So let's just do the So who's the best point guard in the league or NBA? Steph Curry at 72. It's not that's a no brainer. Luka Doncic at 14%, Chris Paul at 10%, and Trey Young at 3%. Yeah, I mean, I have no problem with this list. Steph Curry is probably one of the best shooters of all time, best point guard of all time, or like of this
Mhm.
modern day NBA before anyone says, "Whoa, pump the brakes."
I have heard people argue that Steph Curry is not really a point guard.
So people think he's a shooting guard.
Yeah,
I
because
mean,
if you
he's
watch
more off ball. Yeah,
You watch Golden State, Draymond Green kind of
brings the
initiates the
ball.
offense mainly, but I mean, for the purposes of this survey, I understand why they went with Curry. I kind of surprised it's that big of a no brainer for people, where Luka comes in second with only 14%. That's probably because they won the title last season, so that's probably the what's on people's mind.
Right. Who the best shooting guard? I'm surprised Booker was this high. I mean, I thought he was a point guard.
Yeah.
So Devin Booker at 45%, Luka Doncic at 28%.
Okay, so that's
Um,
where I guess some of the votes went, because Luka's listed on for different
for
positions.
different positions, yeah. Steph Curry at 17%. Who's the best small forward? Kevin Durant at 45%, Tatum at 24%, Luka at 17%, LeBron at 10%, Kawhi at 13%. I'm surprised he didn't make that list because he hasn't really been. I mean, I know like healthy Kawhi, but we haven't seen him play like for a whole year. So I'm pretty sure they're gonna probably add another small forward in his place just for this time being because like they haven't really seen him like play post injury he had.
Right.
Um, Power forward, obviously Giannis is up there, 86%. I'm surprised LeBron's at 10%. That's kind of crazy.
I'm not.
Kevin Durant at 3%.
These GMs love them some LeBron.
Oh man. Who's the best center? They got two-time MVP, back-to-back MVP, Nikola Jokic, 79%. Highest percentage of total votes in opposition to the question. This is interesting. The off-season moves. Which team made the best overall moves this off-season? Cleveland has at 41%. Timberwolves at 17%. Philly at 17%, and Utah at 17%. Did Philadelphia make any moves other than signing Harden? I'm surprised they're on that
No,
list.
they signed PJ Tucker. I'm not the biggest PJ Tucker guy. That's probably a hot take. A lot of people love him because of his veteran presence and 3-and-D.
Yeah, all he does is hit.
Yeah, I feel like I swear the past few playoffs, I cannot remember a 3 PJ Tucker's hit.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, he's a corner specialist. Like he doesn't really I'm surprised. So all right, which one player acquisition will make the biggest impact? This is an interesting one. Donovan Cleveland with 59%, Rudy Gobert at Minnesota at 31%, Jalen Brunson at New York 7%, and Tucker at Philadelphia 3%. I mean, Cleveland definitely had a big upgrade with Donovan Mitchell. I know New York kind of like fumbled the ball with him and signed Brunson. But yeah, I mean, I think Cleveland with him and Garland and Love still on the team and Mobley on the team. They got a good young team on that roster. So I don't have no problem with that list or with that category. Who will win 2023 MVP? I mean, Boncaro is probably going to win it. They have him at 79%. Keegan Murray at 70%. And Jabari Smith at with Houston.
Yeah, I have no questions.
They got
with
some
that
interesting ones. Who's the best international player? Defense. Yeah, there's a lot of. Is there any other one you want to talk about? Any categories
one.
that shock you or kind of surprise you?
No, not really. I mean, well, no, both most versatile defender. I could agree with that.
I know LeBron led the with IQ, which is probably would make sense.
Oh, I didn't even see that one. Yeah,
You wouldn't say he has
I
IQ.
was trying to think. Like, I mean, there's a lot of players I would consider high IQ players.
Yeah, but but LeBron can if you ask him okay, break down that play that you had against the finals against the game 3. Like, what went through your mind? Like, you break down the play perfectly. Like,
okay, I've seen LeBron do that. There's plenty of athletes that can do that.
yeah,
I mean, you can ask 30 people in the NFL, they could do the same thing.
yeah, that's true. But I mean, I feel like he's been around the league a lot longer, like a Tom Brady-esque type player.
Yeah. No, I mean for his longevity and all that, I understand the way he has to take care of his body because he's an older guy.
Yeah.
That plays part in his IQ. He's got good vision on the court and all that. But yeah, the whole replaying memories and all that kind of stuff. A lot of athletes can do that. I mean, I could replay series of stuff, and I'm not even in the game.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I guess since you don't, are there any other categories you want to talk about before we end the show?
I mean, best defensive team. I appreciate that they recognized Celtics for that. Yeah.
Oh man.
I didn't even see the coaches one.
Oh, the coaches. Oh, they had
Spoelstra is the best head coach in the NBA. Okay.
I think Kerr is because obviously he's been there and got championships. Greg Popovich still in there. Monty Williams, Tyronn Lue's up there on that list.
I mean, people feel like Popovich might be slipping, but I mean, he's at the end, so I think out of respect, you got to put him up there. But yeah, Spoelstra with 52%, that's probably a little high.
Yeah.
I mean, I can recognize Spoelstra is a pretty good coach, but
the most athletic, John Morant, which is probably, I mean, I guess I would say that. I would agree with that. I would play as the best pure shooter, Steph Curry. That's no brainer, 91%.
I made the Warriors as the team that's most fun to watch. I mean, yeah, I guess.
As we all covered everything, man.
Yeah, I think for the most part, most of this list is
All right, well, this will end the show, the JJL Sports Talk Show. I'm your host, Jordan John Louis, with my co-host Kyle Edwards. I know we were going to talk about MLB, but we decided that we're going to wait and talk about all the games after the wild card. Currently, the Pirates are whooping the Mets 6-0 right now.
I mean, I think what I said before we started this, the Mets could very easily get swept both tonight and tomorrow because losing 10.5 game lead, you're going up against a Padres team where, Padres have decent pitching. Their lineup, even though they don't have Fernando Tatis, still some formidable people there. Soto, Machado. Even though I'm not a fan of Machado because he played in Baltimore and with him and the Red Sox, I'm not a fan of him. But he is a good hitter. Gotta give him credit for that. And
I mean,
and you see them showing the Mets fans.
You don't like Machado?
Nah. Not
like as a player, you don't think he's good?
Yeah, he's all right. No, he's talented. He is.
Yeah.
I just think he's one of those guys who can be a bonehead for no reason, and it kind of takes away from his ability. I mean, so far since he's been in San Diego, I don't think I've heard a lot about him out there. So maybe he's matured to the point where I could look past a lot of that stuff. But when he was in Baltimore, he was immature a lot, and I think that's what rubbed a lot of people the wrong way.
Yeah, right. I see where you're coming from. But yeah, man. So that'll do it for tonight's show. You can catch me and Kyle on Tuesday night's show, which is part of the Sports Empire Network. The Big Three podcast with me, Kyle, and Dylan.
Yep.
And then we'll be back next Friday. Actually, speaking of him, he tried to hit a home run, Machado. So 7-0. But
I mean, he can do that though.
Yeah. But yeah, man. So this will end the show. Thanks for tuning in. Like we said before, the show's on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify. The live version of the show is on Facebook Live and YouTube. My YouTube channel, which is the name of the show. But thanks for tuning in. Any last words or final thoughts, Kyle, before we head out?
I mean, of course, everybody, be safe. Enjoy the sports all weekend. Got baseball playoffs. You got football season. Got college football getting going. I was even women's international soccer. Everything that's out there, find whatever you're a fan of. I'm sure it's going on right now. So just enjoy it and just be safe.
All right. Putting that good work, Kyle. Thank you, man. All right, man. So we are out. See y'all for next Friday.
Yep. Have a good one, guys.